Welcome to our first official webinar hosted by Glass. Glass is a startup creating software for government to succeed. So we are always in all these different projects, making sure that we're supporting government, making sure that we're making their life easier, their job easier. And then we said, let's take a step back. We actually talked to community leaders, economic development people, government people, business owners, and also procurement leaders. And then we said, everyone has an individual angle that they see this important topic, rethinking local, economic recovery. How about we bring them all into one space and talk about the things and the ways in which we want to support local. We know we're not going to get to the perfect solution at the end. We know we're not going to say, this is the answer, this is the way, because there are so many ways. But we want to bring you all as experts in your fields to join in the conversation and kind of find a way and see where do we need to put our energy in order to support local, in order to support our communities and our businesses. And so again, I am so excited and grateful that you're all here joining us. Like I said, we have some amazing speakers. Daniel Tollefson from the president of Hometown Welcome Program. We have Tia Latrell, small business owner of Latrell Flowers. Daniel Uribe, senior public procurement specialist. Alex Walker-Griffin, city council member in Hercules, California. Jesse Torres, co-founder of Small Business Front Inc., as well as principal at Arroyo, and our CEO at Glass, Paola Santana. I know there's so much to cover in each of your roles, so I'd love for each of you to introduce yourselves. I'll start it off. My name is Amada. I am part of the government growth team here at Glass. So my job and my passion is to bridge the gap between government and technology. Find a middle ground, a middle point where we can meet halfway and better serve the people. There's so much that we could talk about at Glass, but I want to give you a little sneak peek, a little preview. We are currently starting to focus on just local and local economy. So if you see my shirt today, I'm sorry, apologies that you can't read it all. So I want to make sure that you know what it says. It says, hey, Miami, keep your money where your home is. And that is our motto right now. That is our mission. And I'm going to show you the back of my shirt at the end of the webinar when our CEO shares a really exciting project that we're working on. As of now, I'll pass it on to Paola, our CEO, and then we'll just keep going with introductions.
Thank you, Amada, for putting together this amazing webinar. We recognize that it's very challenging for any of us to make time for another Zoom event, but it's so important for us to talk about how we are thriving and creating thick skin coming out of this pandemic. And it requires everybody. And people is eager, hungry to learn how is everyone thriving or making it through the day. So we're having hundreds of conversations with government agents every day, and they're telling us how they're taking some time off or walking around between Zoom meetings. And we're talking with small businesses telling us how they're getting a couple of extra certifications so they can get new lines of businesses. And we're also talking to community leaders telling us, this is how I created this specific program in my city or my county, and this has unlocked something. We need these tricks. We need these actionable little, I would say, snippets of hope. The whole world needs them, and this is why we put this webinar together. We are trying as a small startup to do our best to share this knowledge. We're running so fast doing all the work that we don't have enough time to communicate all the learnings that we're getting. And I think this is why it's important for us to bring, first of all, these leaders and these champions together. And second of all, to make sure that we have time for you to tell us what you've been doing in a very succinct, in a very actionable way, because the world needs what you guys are going to be communicating. So thank you again for being here. Let's make the most out of this hour. Our whole team is here, eager to hear how we can apply some of the solutions that you've applied at your community, small businesses, government, and local championship levels. So thank you so much, and let's start our panel.
We can start with Daniel.
There's two Daniels, so I'll be the first Daniel.
There's two Daniels.
Go ahead.
I was looking at the screen. Thank you, Daniel Tollefson.
Hey, hi everybody. I'm Daniel Tollefson. You can call me Dan if you'd like. and I'm with the Hometown Welcome Program. We work really hard to help local small businesses market themselves. And so we focus on advertising and marketing. Like many businesses during the pandemic, there was a cutback on sales and marketing, obviously, but we have seen that really bounce back here in early 2021. We specifically help local organizations market to new families moving into the area. So we're live right now with our program in over 500 communities in the US, covering 27 different states. It's really exciting to really get the new family involved into the community, especially with the economy and building local business relationships. So that's our goal. For example, we work with a lot of hospital networks, healthcare providers. One of the first things people do when they move into the area is find a local doctor or dentist. So that's what we focus on is at my company. We work with a ton of small to medium-sized businesses, and I'm happy to be on the panel today.
Happy to have you, Daniel. Tia.
Hi, everyone. Yes, thank you. First of all, let me thank you so much for doing this, because we need the help. You know, our communities need the help. And like you said, the world needs the help. We're struggling. So let me tell you a little bit about me and what I do. My name is Tia Latrell of Latrell Flowers, and we're actually based in Baltimore, Maryland. However, we provide global services. So a little bit about what we do. I'm the owner of Latrell Flowers. I'm also a floral artist as well as a designer with Latrell Flowers. And so what we do is we specialize in custom floral arrangements for all occasions. We also specialize in custom apparel, accessories, and houseware for all occasions. We also do bedazzled sports items. We work with the Ravens, the Harlem Wizards. We do quite a bit. And just recently, we also launched our shoe line. So we do quite a bit. Like I said, we absolutely need assistance. All of us need the help. And it's imperative to come together, band together, share ideas so that we all can move ahead and move forward successfully. So thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.
Thank you for joining us, Tia. We're so excited to hear about your business. Daniel, Uribe.
Hi, everyone. I would like to start thanking Paola and you, Amada, and all the GLASS team for this invitation. Of course, my colleagues in the panel today and everyone that is joining us in this wonderful opportunity to talk about this important topic. My name is Daniel Uribe. I'm from Colombia. I'm a trained lawyer specializing in administrative law. I also did an LLM in George Washington University on government procurement, GovTech. I have more than 10 years working in the public procurement, especially in Colombia, local, provincial, or state, and even in the national or federal government. And also, now I have the chance to work for a software company. We deal with a lot of stuff during the pandemic. And also we have the chance to help a lot of countries in the Caribbean, for example, that were having a hard time. And we have our platform. We use our platform to encourage local and international vendors to provide solutions in an easy and faster way. So I'm glad that we have this opportunity to talk about, and I guess I'm going to talk about this more later on in the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. We're so excited to have you. We'll pass it on to Alex.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Alex Walker-Griffin, and I'm a council member here in Hercules, California, about 25 miles northeast, actually not even, like 19 miles northeast of San Francisco. I got into politics at a pretty early age, around the age of 10. And at around the age of 13, been working on campaigns ever since. And like a lot of people who get into local government, it's largely due to frustration. And I think a lot of stagnation within our community. So I got involved, raised a bunch of money in the hometown that I grew up in, and ultimately landed my spot. Outside of that, I've worked on a bunch of different initiatives and worked in a variety of different spaces, from local government, such as a staffer for the Richmond City Council, and to a member of Congress's office, working a lot of higher education stuff. I sat on the state's community college board for a couple of years and helped launch our first online community college. So I'm excited to share some of the stuff that Hercules has been doing and also provide a perspective of local government. And thank you once again for the invite.
Thank you, Alex. Excited to have you. We'll end it up with Jesse.
Thank you, Amada. And thank you to the GLASS team for letting me join today's panel. My name is Jesse Torres. I am the principal for a management consulting firm that specializes in economic and workforce development called Arroyo West. And I also just recently started a new company, a C Corp, called Small Business Front, that is going to be providing direct services and tools to small business owners, through the entire U.S. And then in a past life, I was actually the state small business advocate for California under Governor Brown. I had a chance to do a lot of work around procurement and small business technical assistance, and also where I first cut my teeth on disaster relief and resilience. But that's it for me.
Thank you, Jesse. That's wonderful. As you all can see, we have some incredible leaders that are not only, putting forward initiatives, but they're doing the work. They're doing the work. That's why we thought it was important to bring them all into one conversation, into one space, and really figure out what is the best way that we can support each other. We are not in a competition here. We are all in a mission. We're sharing a mission, and that is to support our communities, to make our local economy stronger. And without pointing fingers, without saying this is who needs to be responsible, but we're all in this together, which brings me to my first question. We could go to the next slide. This is not only for the speakers. Of course, we want the speakers to really hone in on this, but I want the audience to also write in their answer in the chat. Who do you think is responsible for economic recovery in our cities? Is it government? Is it our community? Is it small business owners? Is it other organizations such as GLASS, such as Arroyo, Hometown Program? And who do you think is responsible? Please, we're going to go ahead and get started with our speakers' answers, but put in the chat, if you're an attendee, put in the chat, who do you think is responsible for our economic recovery? So go ahead and take it away, whoever wants to start off with this question.
I can jump in. From my experience, economic recovery really includes everyone, and it has to include everyone. I always remember the first major fire I ever dealt with was in the Santa Rosa area back in 2017, and where my office was in charge of helping to lead the small business recovery, and noting that it really does, small business touches everyone, right? And all sectors, and even when people don't really quite realize it, typically they influence or touch small business in some kind of way. And it really does involve everybody playing a part. And I've actually seen it when certain people aren't at the table, whether it's government or local chamber or even the community themselves, and how it just doesn't work. It really kind of falls apart. So, just to kind of lay it out, I'm going to say that everybody needs to play a part in order to do a sufficient economic recovery.
Absolutely. Can I jump in?
Please, everyone jump in. I want this to be a super casual conversation, so go ahead and jump in when something sticks with you.
Okay, so let me say this. I absolutely agree with Jesse. It absolutely takes a collective effort. But let me go a little deeper, because in order for true successful recovery, we have to get uncomfortable. You have to get uncomfortable. And what I mean by that is a lot of individuals are not willing to do this. But in order for us to honestly recover, I would say one example would be if you have space to house aspiring entrepreneurs and or other struggling entrepreneurs, I would advise to do that. And when you do that, everybody put all of their resources together. I mean, it's a collective effort. There's no I in team, so when you do that, I would have a schedule, a calendar where we all meet at certain times, where we sit down, where we exchange ideas, where we exchange resources, all of the above. And then collectively, we go after all of these goals together. So I think that a lot of it comes with being uncomfortable. It's not comfortable to go up against the government and demand certain resources, but when you're doing it alone, 9 times out of 10, you will be overlooked. you know? So I would say that it is absolutely a collective and uncomfortable collective effort.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of them. It's a collective action, and I think that there needs to be a strong emphasis on working with the government, either it's local, state, or federal, because we'll have connections that we can help you out with. Maybe there's a state grant that you're not aware of, and you can use your local city council member as a liaison to put you in contact with someone that can help you get that out. And at the same time, like here in Hercules, what we've been doing, we've been cutting some of the fees that initially are some of the starter seeds that you need in order to get something going, because we understand that, hey, this has been a really bad time for entrepreneurs and people who already have a business. And so we want to make sure that you can jump back into this game a little bit more efficiently. So things like that, reevaluating your policies to make sure that you're actually helping people out rather than making it more difficult. I understand that places need to generate revenue, but at the same time, if we want businesses to, start off fresh or even have a fresh start just entirely, we have to make sure that we look into some of these items like cutting fees or reducing some of the costs that are associated with it.
I'd like to say too, and totally agree with all the panelists so far. I've been in a professional workforce now for about 25 years, and I've seen small communities really excel when there's a direct correlation of working together, whether it is the public, government, local small business. I've also seen in some, especially small towns in the US, where there were service clubs and downtown associations that really kind of helped bridge that gap between everybody. And I've seen that participation has really waned. And I think we need to challenge our society, the digital age that we're in. How can we work easier and better together in a more formal fashion? Because I agree with Tia, talk is cheap, but if you can't sit down and talk about the issues and work together, I've seen businesses not be successful because they felt like they're fighting against the local government, and I've seen it the other way around. So I think there has to be, I think as a society, maybe a new look at associations or service clubs where there is kind of a representation from each of those individual organizations that all need to work together for us to have a thriving economy.
And if I may, I guess, well, I'm totally agree with all the panelists. I guess we all need to put in one way or another, if we want to, if we want a prompt recovery. The pandemic has affected us all, and it's everyone's responsibility to recover. We can wait, we cannot wait to the local or federal governments to keep us sending money or benefits, even in international perspective. Here in Colombia and basically in all South America, I hear these stories over and over again. This is not a charity. We need to be, we're in this together. And one point that I would like to highlight is we need to seek a way to end informality through a creation of public policies, for example, that maybe we can work with, of course, any type of government and even unions to encourage participation of small local businesses. And I think that's the way, or in one way, public procurement can be a good sort of asset to solve this in a good and fair way.
I love that everybody's so accurate and specific about how they think about this, which means you've been thinking about this for a while, or you've been working on this for a while, or you've been trying 100 different ways to get this done for a while. I believe that everybody needs to do their part, and they need to do it in a formal way. So I agree with everything you're saying. And I think we need to assign ultimate responsibles for all these formal channels. So we've been surprised to see. So let's do a step back and let's put things into perspective. Small businesses are the backbone of every country's economy. Full stop. Full stop. There are 400 million small businesses in the world. Data. Let's work with data. I like data, part of data. There are 30 million of those small businesses in the United States. And those small businesses that range from mom and pop shop to businesses that do one single thing very well, or many things not that well, all of those small businesses need to step up at some point. They need to graduate. Let's think about the most valuable company in the world that today is Apple. They started out of a garage. And I tell people all the time, being an entrepreneur, you never end where you start. That's why you need to start. And when you start, you're very small, and that's okay. However, if we have the backbone of our economies that are small businesses that need to step up and need to graduate, what are they getting business from? Are they getting business from their largest purchaser and the biggest purchaser in their local communities? They are not. So our largest purchasers in our communities, counties, and cities are our local governments. And our local governments that are, in most cases, the biggest decision makers, the biggest purchasers, and I would even say the biggest investors in anything that actually changes in our communities. This bucket doesn't talk to this bucket. The biggest of something doesn't talk to the biggest of something else. We need to create that fabric. And then we need to address both fabrics. Why isn't government buying more from small businesses? Because they need an easy way to do that. They need to comply with code, and at the same time, they need to now do this secondary thing that is to purchase small. Okay, let's make it easy for you to buy small. And then another of the reasons that they don't buy small is because, well, all these small businesses, they're not fully registered, they don't have financials in place, they don't have inventory tracking, they cannot send a digital invoice, they don't have certifications in place. You know, I'm not gonna say it's excuses, but I'm gonna say it's fair things. And then can we help small businesses like get those check boxes so you can actually start buying from them, you and the community and other businesses. So it's interesting to see when you start really listening to why this group, the small businesses, are not stepping up, or why are they not able to really harness of the power that they have locally, and then why governments cannot act more on something very simple that they have already said they want to do, because they have local ordinances. By the way, if you don't know this, like I would say 60% of counties and cities in the United States have local ordinances saying that they need to buy local. So the question is, how can we enforce that? So that formality on that level exists already. We just need to enforce it now. So I would say that there are many ways we can get that done: through technology, through leadership. I mean, it takes a leader inside government to say, I'm gonna make this happen. This is my thing. I'm gonna champion it. I'm gonna own it. And this is why I'm saying, even if it's a boss program like Alexander has, championed in his community, even if it's like creating a small business community that can give tools and talk to other businesses about how to step up, someone needs to own it, because if nobody owns these channels, this thing is not gonna happen.
Thank you all for those wonderful answers. I think there's a common denominator, common topic. That's all. We all need to come together. We all need to take responsibility, whether it's as a government person, whatever your role, the role that you're in, we need to put it upon ourselves to really make those changes. And so my next question is, the US economy grew at 6.4% in the first 3 months of 2021. And that was due to mass vaccinations and federal stimulus checks, which triggered a surge in consumer spending. Do you think this is enough to revive the economy, local economy, and for local recovery? And if not, how can we take advantage, and you can speak on behalf of each of your roles, how can we take advantage of this momentum and really put it into our local economic recovery efforts?
I can.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, Tia. Go ahead, Tia.
That's okay. No, I just need to hear that question again, please.
Oh, okay.
Of course.
Thank you.
Let me repeat it again. Of course. So the US economy grew at 6.4% in the first 3 months of 2021 due to mass vaccinations and stimulus checks provided by the government. There was a surge in consumer spending. So do you think in your own role, in your own experience, this is enough to now revive the economy? Or if not, how can we take advantage of this momentum in your own role, in your, whether you're in an organization, a small business owner, a government official, how do we take advantage of this momentum and really use it to advance our local economic recovery efforts?
Yeah, so I'd like to start if I could, please. I've seen it both in my business as well as my clients. There's definitely been an uptick of businesses, consumers spending, the economy picking up. There's definitely that. You're right. We need to kind of capture that momentum growing. What I specialize in is marketing and advertising. And that's through all different, channels, of course. But I think now that businesses are opening up, now that a lot of state restrictions are loosening up, that needs to be told. That story has to be told to the public, to your potential buyers. So that messaging and telling, local citizens that, hey, we're open for business, we're ready to serve you. I've seen that messaging be across all my campaigns I'm running for my clients. For example, hospitals are opening up for elective surgeries now. They want the business to come back. Local restaurants are open. They want people to come dine in and eat. So for me, a big part of, I think, stimulating and growing that, momentum is advertising and marketing, that you're open, you're ready to go. What you're specialized in, what is your unique value proposition that you're going to be able to solve a problem that a consumer will have. So I think that plays a huge role on keeping the economy going.
Yeah, if we don't mind, I can jump in on that as well. Especially from like the local government perspective, certain policies and practices that were in place, we can keep them. So, for example, a lot of places allow businesses to have outdoor eateries. I think it combined with being able to, one, eat indoors, keep that outdoor gathering space as well, because one, it's a nice feature, especially in the summer. People are going to be eager to be outside. But two, I also think that the sort of trauma is still going to be there from COVID-19. People are obviously going to be a little hesitant to be within certain spaces with other people if they don't know. So keeping that, but then at the same time, working with our Chamber of Commerce to pump in money. Just last night, over in the city council meeting that we sent money to our local Chamber of Commerce to help fund some of the businesses that have been sort of basically just displaced and actually help out our local economy. So our Chamber of Commerce is a multi-city. So that way we know that this money is going back into the community, and we know that this is going to eventually help us all out, because like I said, this is a multi-level situation, and sometimes people just aren't aware of what's actually out there.
Just to jump in, I'm kind of on the fence on it. I see this just like everybody else, the surge, the unprecedented surge of funding that is flowing down to local governments, also just to consumers spending money and businesses benefiting from that. I'm not sure if I'm seeing the long-term strategy of growth. I'm not sure if I'm seeing regional massive collaboration around addressing systemic issues that have persisted for a long time around inequity. So I kind of worry about that. I worry about, and now as a consultant with my own firm, I'll tell you, when I talk to my friend, a business partner of mine, we're trying to get as much as we can right now, because we're worried about a cliff, worried about the spending going away. And I'm trying to see, I just came off of a City of LA Small Business Commission meeting, and I'm trying to see, is the city putting dollars into programs that will benefit small businesses for the long term? And it was good to see that they're using the dollars in a meaningful kind of way. But I worry that we're not being strategic. We're not putting money into innovation. We're not putting money into jobs of the future. And I'm worried that we're not doing massive regional planning around the next big disaster. So I'm on the fence.
I want to jump on that very quickly. I agree. I think that to the question that Amada asked, that's a first good step. Like we've put attention and we've launched all these grants and all these, let's do something for small businesses to recover. Like I think we have never done before. Like local is a thing. Sometimes I'm not gonna even say we, Amada is a big local champion inside our company. She's the one that believes in this in a way that I had never seen, because I come from the Dominican Republic, where getting things done is already a miracle. So we're like, oh, you also want to do good and buy local? I'm like, let me wait and see that. And actually being here in the United States, I'm already grateful for talking about the topics that are beyond basic. It's like, no, we can't, because we have so much economic power, we can put this money behind the things where we want to do good and do well at the same time, because we can do well and do good at the same time. So we're taking it to the next level. And I appreciate being in a country that makes me stretch and think for the next level of what does this mean when we take one more day to think something through, but we're going to get both boxes checked. However, that is the first step. The next step is what Jess is saying, is like, what is the long-term thing here? Because we are creating economic development departments in every city and county. And in many cities and counties, these economic development departments think that their job is an advocacy job. Advocacy say, I put a webinar, I told small businesses to register, I told them that there's a lot of opportunity. And we're like, no, anybody can do that. Your job should be to create the tools, to actually insert them into the economy. Your job should be to track the numbers. Your job should be to make sure that these numbers are going up. Even 3 small businesses per month, like that, they are now more certificated, that they got more business than they were getting before because of these webinars that you government put in place. So we think that we need long-term vision. And the challenge with long-term vision, oh, sorry about that. I think there's someone that's not muted. I think that the challenge with long-term vision in government agencies that are, I would say, one of the most, strongest organizations in this conversation today, is that they do need to balance out their day-to-day operation with facing an unprecedented thing that is a pandemic with urgent action. So it's almost like when government realizes, because I think they do realize that local recovery is a must, they're saying, well, yeah, but I need to wait 3 months, or I need to wait next year so I can put this into my budget or put this into my planning, because this wasn't in my planning. So it's either you're in emergency mode or you're in planning mode. And there's not like this intermediate step of saying, between I deal with this emergency and I figure out what's the long-term plan, how can I build consistently upon this first step of the first three months? I think that's, it's not black and white. It's actually, let's build on top of it, layer by layer. Let's build on top of this recovery that we have by creating programs that are not fully articulated, because we don't know. And actually, we've never done it successfully before, but we know this is better than doing nothing. So I would say it's a mix of both.
Thank you, everyone.
If Tia would like to, I would like to add something real quick.
Please, Daniel.
So unfortunately, the vast majority of small businesses are discouraged to participate in, and I'm going to talk, of course, about public procurement, since it's my specialty. The lack of knowledge of the procedures, of the requirements and everything, and I guess we can call them the myths of related with government contracts, are disencouraging these small businesses to participate in this amazing process that they can find a lot of profit right there. And we have to use something that I think Paola mentioned, and also Alexander, is we need to use what we have. In this case, for example, we have to use and take advantage of the technological tools that we have. And of course, I think there's a lack too of visibility. And that's, or there's why we need even like some sort of the companies, the local governments and everyone to need to get involved in this kind of situation. So I just wanted to add that. But yeah, I guess we need to use more webinars, virtual, hybrid, fairs, social media, explode everything that we have.
Can I add something? Can you hear me?
Yeah, of course. Go for it.
So I absolutely agree with everything that everyone has said. I absolutely agree with advertisement, and champion being honest about what it is that you do, what you can offer, what you can't offer, and what it is that you can offer and what you do, you champion that. But I absolutely agree with Jesse, because I'm also on the fence, because at the end of the day, it takes for the government to do the right thing, period. So when I say the right thing, you need to provide proper resources so that small businesses and businesses can thrive. You need to provide opportunities, local opportunities, like they should be in abundance, where if I have every license in the book, but I can't secure a proper contract, that doesn't make sense. So it takes for them to do the right thing. I'm absolutely on the fence like Jesse, because as we, know, it's so much systemic, so many systemic issues that we can't overcome them alone. It takes for the right thing to be done, period, so that we can thrive.
And I'm just gonna add on top of what Tia is saying, because we all have opinions, and I just love that you're so candid about it, Tia. I honestly think, this is my opinion, and we're all giving our opinions, that actually giving small businesses grants, I think we shouldn't give grants. We shouldn't give them help. We should give them business. Give me your order. Give me the small order. Don't give me a grant. I don't need a grant, because a grant is a one-off in a year. I don't need a grant, because if you were giving me part of your business, don't give me the big contract, because I'm not there. I've never done business with you. So I understand local government that you don't know me. But if you give me a little bit of your small purchases, the ones that you're doing a one-off, Amada and I talked with an amazing champion and leader from the East Coast, and he's a mayor of a small town. And he said that he understood the importance of local, not because he attended a webinar, but because in the middle of the pandemic, they had to contract printing services. And he was embarrassed that a small printing business told him, you guys went all across town to get printing services and we were here. Why didn't you call us? We would have come to you and delivered the thing next hour. And he was like, we were just trying to get the job done. We could not think about the convenience of buying local, because that convenience doesn't exist in like click. And we understood what he was saying, but he said to us that he felt embarrassed because he's a major. He's supposed to advocate for his small businesses first, and he does. So it's like there was a disconnect between what he believes he should do and what he could do, because he was getting things done on the day-to-day. And this was how he basically realized the importance of not just having a small business directory in their website. He was like, are we using our small business directory? So as we say in entrepreneurship, you cannot learn what you think you already know. So if you think that you're using small businesses, you're not gonna push everyone to use the small businesses because you think you're already doing it. But can you do a step back and say, are we using our small businesses? And that was like very enlightening for our team to say, okay, sometimes people, they think they're helping, they think they're giving grants, they think they're doing 3 webinars, and that's amazing. But are we really helping our small businesses? Actually, are we even talking to our small businesses and asking what they need from us? Maybe we haven't talked to them in a year. So this is to build on top of what Tia was saying and what all of you have been saying on the formality. And then formality means, if I have established a channel, can I track how that channel is doing? Because if not, I mean, what you cannot measure, you cannot grow. So.
Great segue to my next question, everyone. And Paola, absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I think we often hear the saying, it's the intention that counts. Not in this scenario, not in this field. We actually need to put our money where our mouth is and support our local business, support our local economy. So brings me to my next question, and it's a 2-part. The first part is for everyone but Tia, and the second question is just for Tia. So the first part is, in the wake of COVID-19 lockdowns, exactly a year ago, businesses had to close their doors, which caused them to lose a lot of money. if something, knock on wood, doesn't happen, if something like COVID-19 were to happen again, how can we, in each of our roles and in our expertise, in our skills, how can we make sure that businesses feel supported and it doesn't cause the damage that it caused this year to them? So that is for everyone. But Tia, in your role, if this were to happen again, if something like COVID-19 where it's out of our hands, how can we ensure that they have the tools and resources to navigate through something like it? And then my second question, that's only for Tia, is, Tia, as a business owner, what resources would you have liked to see? What help and support do you need in moments like this? And I'm happy to put the questions in the chat as well. So I'll open it up to you all. First, everyone else, and then Tia.
I think it comes down to a lot of policies. And then, like, you know, the different levels of government playing their role with an integrated part. So Hercules is a small city of only 26,000. So we're not going to have the bandwidth that, say, LA or San Francisco would have, but we do have abilities to enforce ordinances just like anybody else. What we did kind of about, or at least when I got on the council, we worked with the county to establish third-party delivery fees cutoffs. So you can only charge 15%, say if you're like Uber Eats, you know, Grubhub and things like that, because we wanted to keep more money back in the businesses' pockets, and at the same time, make sure that they can stay afloat. And then at the same time, you know, look at new ways that we can, one, send money into their pockets, whether it's working with the state or the federal government to send consistent money, but then letting people know what's actually out there. So I'm really cool with our Chamber of Commerce, and what we did, we developed a whole list of all the businesses from here all the way to Crockett in about a 7-mile radius, and let people know, hey, here are the businesses that you can support, you know, and this is the services that they're offering. And then again, you know, loosen certain restrictions on things. I think with COVID, we were, you know, in a right way, sort of reactionary because we didn't really know what to expect. But I think now that, because we're coming out of it and we can kind of look back on some of our mistakes, ask ourselves, what can we do better? Do we need to consistently have lockdowns where businesses have to be shut down entirely? Or can we go straight to doing outdoor stuff, you know, if the weather permits it and we can get enough people, you know, and also looking into new innovative ways as well. It's like, all right, well, let's talk to the businesses. Let's bring people together, because one thing that I saw here in Hercules and just around the Bay Area was there was a huge drive to help out small businesses stay afloat. And it was just a huge drive from different people around the state wanting to just go to small businesses and just shop with them.
Just to jump in, you know, I think it's inevitable that it will happen again. Something like, maybe not necessarily pandemic, but even the fires here in California becoming mega region fires, you know, everything's becoming uber connected. I think it's such a great question, because essentially, what have we learned, right? How do we do it better next time? The information sharing is so important. You know, on the level of, let us explain the new ordinances, right, and how they apply. Let's do it in multi-language. We have to come up with a better way to do it, because there was such chaos in the beginning. What really drove me crazy was, you know, I live here in the San Gabriel River Valley, and I saw firsthand that the first wave of economic distress came with our Asian-owned businesses, and how people weren't patronizing them, primarily due to xenophobia and much less COVID at that time. But it was really distressing to hear 6 months later that, you know, Brooklyn had gone through the same experience, San Francisco had gone through the same experience, and there wasn't a system of information sharing. Like, we could have learned from one another, and we didn't. And it kind of leads to it, I think, our first question. There's a real big need for a different system of response. Our concerns are now mega region, national in scope. The current disaster recovery system is very much focused on one particular community, but every community now is connected. We need a new way to coordinate. I don't know if that's a new kind of FEMA approach, but there's got to be a better way to communicate, and so we understand what is happening in one place so that we can prepare for it in another place. So that kind of information sharing becomes really important.
Jesse, I have a follow-up question about that. When you say information sharing, do you mean about tactics, processes? Can you be a little bit more specific about what information we could share, for example?
Yeah, you know, and it's interesting because, you know, during the pandemic, I was fortunate to get connected to an organization that on its own decided to hold calls with people from around the country. So different chambers, different economic development agencies. And it was so enlightening to be on these calls and to hear like, oh, what we're experiencing in the county of LA is very similar to what you're experiencing there in New York. But in New York, you're essentially 3 months ahead. So they were, as y'all know, the wave of pandemic was hitting them much harder at a certain time of the year versus in LA, we weren't quite there yet, but we were approaching it. And so to be able to hear how they reacted, what steps they took, what programs they implemented to help save their small businesses, although they themselves were trying to figure it out, was extremely helpful. But if not for that one organization coordinating us and inviting us to be part of that conversation, nobody else would have done it. And so, and I think Paul, a part of it is kind of like the current framework around disaster response is that the idea is that, well, you have an incident, it occurs in your community, you respond to it, and then it's over. That doesn't work anymore because now you have an incident that impacts multiple communities, and it's an experience that lasts for a very long time, or could have fits and starts, just like pandemic was. Like, okay, we were back to normal, and then we're not. And so now the experience of disaster is very different. All I'm saying is that there needs to be a different tactic, to your point, around information sharing, a new type of system, maybe a new regional approach. And I'm hoping that that will be a discussion to come at really a national level, or even potentially global, kind of revising the disaster framework. So that's what I'm suggesting.
Some really good points there by the panelists. I'd like to add that I think through challenges and hardships builds character. And we absolutely learned a lot in the last year working with small businesses, our own small business. And what I have seen is companies being very adaptive, creative, and diversifying their product line or how they deliver it and get it out to the consumer. I think we need to continue to do that. Local small businesses need to continue to challenge themselves to be, how can I be better? How can I serve my clients better? How do I educate my team better to be more friendly, to be more engaged, to really, make sure that you have a unique solution for you to excel. I also think it's a great time to consider expense trends, because we now can do so much virtually and remotely. My company alone, we used to travel to all of our markets, and we still love doing that, but we haven't in the last year. And we've learned, as at least with our clients and potential clients, it's okay to get on a virtual call, and it's okay, it's really accepted. So I think as we evolved in the last year, we continue to kind of challenge ourselves. Again, how do we diversify? How do we increase the knowledge of our team to make sure that we're putting customers first, get more unique on how we can deliver effectively? All those things, I think we continue to grow. And that's really what makes small businesses successful. They stand out. And so I think that that's a really good growing pattern and what we can learn from this last year.
Wonderful. I couldn't agree with y'all more. Now I'm going to pass it over to Tia to tell us, as a business owner, what would you have liked to see from every angle, whether it is government, community, what resources, what tools did you need in that time?
When the pandemic hit, everyone, we were all 150% on our own. It was like we were in the desert. So let me start by saying this, because in the event we're ever faced with another global disaster, please, by all means, equip yourself. And when I say equip yourself, I mean, you need to seek and secure a mentor. That's number one. Number two, you need to involve yourself and join various chambers across the world. So let me say that, for example, I'm a member of the chamber in Baltimore and New York. So when everything first happened, information that we did not have in Baltimore, I received from New York. So I was ahead of the game. And so when I received it from New York, I brought it back here. And I'm like, well, listen, why are these relief resources not being allocated here? So actually, when the pandemic first happened, the first phone call that I received, which is sad, being that I'm based in Baltimore, was from New York. And that is actually how I found out about some of the major relief resources. And so had I not been involved with the chambers, you know, and let me also say, please, by all means, secure a business manager as well, if you are able to do that. Let me say this really quickly. When I first started, I knew that I needed all of the assistance that, you know, I needed, whatever help I could receive. So the first thing that I did was I went to the University of Maryland, and I went to their mentorship program where they had business counselors and so forth and so on. And I went, I scheduled my appointment, I went in, and that business counselor from when I started is still by my side today. So whenever I ran into difficulty, I knew that I could, you know, reach out to him. And when I reached out to him, he had to go in the inside to get things done. But if I didn't have him, I would have been, you know, I just would have been out there. So for me, something that I think was necessary would have been open communication about relief, about the resources of where we can actually receive relief. We didn't even know where to start, where to go. You know, most business owners didn't know where to go. So everybody, they were all scrambling. And a large part of that is because you were pretty much out here on your own. You know, you're not a part of a chamber. You know, you don't have a mentor. You don't have, you know, a lot of resources, which a lot of that is not your fault. You know, so I would have liked to see, you know, a lot more assistance of where we could even turn to for relief. You know, communication, you know, it was all communication. So you would have one individual telling you this, which was incorrect, and then you would have someone else giving you other information, which could have been factual, but you didn't even know which one to pull from. You know, so I think collectively, you know, it takes for all of us, it takes for great communication, and we did not receive that when the pandemic hit. So like I said, it shouldn't have taken for someone to notify me in New York, you know, which should have been going on in Maryland. It shouldn't have taken for me to bring the information back. It should not have taken for me to do that, you know, especially when we have the local government. You know, we have all of these resources that should have communicated properly with all of their local businesses, and that did not happen. You know, so I would like to see much better communication. Of course, there needs to be change in policy, fair changes in policies. You know, there also needs to be, what can I say, access to capital, operating capital. And this is across the board, you know, it's across the board. We also need to have more business opportunities across the board for everyone, especially in the event of a global pandemic. And the government should actually be helping to promote their local businesses. So it shouldn't take for a certain radio station, you know, to promote a business one week and then not the next week. Something has to change here, you know, and I think that not only does that start with us, we're the grassroots of it. So it's like we're fighting for our dreams, and at the same time, we're fighting the cities that we're in because of ineffective communication and lack of support. So we absolutely need more support from the government, from our politicians, from our leaders, you know, and the community. We need for the communities to come together and demand change. We can't go at it one week and then fall off the next week, you know? And like I said, when the pandemic first happened, it was every man for himself. It was every man for himself, you know? And like I said, had I not been a part of a chamber, then I would have been out there. And had I not, you know, had my business counselor, I wouldn't have known where to turn because there was no communication. There was no communication. So for me, you know, I champion everything that I do. And I was not taking no for an answer under any circumstances. If I had to show up at someone's office, that's what I did. If I had to email an individual that I didn't know, that's what I did. I may not have wanted to be so descriptive in what I was saying because I wasn't that familiar with the individual. But my thing is, what do you have to lose? You know, so we need effective communication. We need the changing of fair policies within the government. We need access to operating capital. We need opportunities across the board in and out of a pandemic. We need fair pay. And we need for you to put yourself in a position. Also, here's another thing that I would like to throw out there as well. When you first start, well, for me, when I first started, my intention was to be in ownership of everything that I did. So my goal was never to rent from anyone. So I feel like, you have to equip yourself, and I'll take the kind of back to the stimulus money. You have to equip yourself with proper resources in the event that we do face another pandemic, or some other global emergency, you can thrive, and you're not just left out there. So when I say, it's as being an entrepreneur, I think that it's imperative to be in ownership of everything that you do. And so with the stimulus money, I hear a lot of individuals talking about different things that they're going to do, but I think it's imperative to invest in things like land, so that when these things happen, you have things to fall back on, so purchasing land. If there are many things that you can do when you purchase land, business-wise, so I definitely give that some thought, about purchasing land. I think another imperative thing to do with your stimulus money would be to invest in mutual funds, invest in Roth IRA accounts. These are things that we can't rely on the local government. So these are things that you have to equip yourself with in the event we are ever faced with this again. And I think, there are several other investments, that you can do, to make sure that you are not strapped the next time we may be faced with a global pandemic. But I would say, most importantly, it needs to be communication, effective communication, and there has to be the changing of policies to be fair from the government across the board. It has to be.
Absolutely,
we need the help.
yeah.
We can't do it alone. It has to be.
Wow, this has been so eye-opening and so helpful, not just to me, but I think for our team and everyone in the audience. Thank you for that. Thank you all. I want to remind everyone that we're putting together a Rethinking Local packet of all the findings that we got today. We're going to share that with our community. We're going to share that with you so you can share that with your communities. And all the findings, all the insights that you so kindly gave us today are going to be part of that packet. So thank you. I want to open up the floor for some quick Q&A. I want to be respectful of our speakers' time. So if there are any last minute questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And as we're all thinking of questions to ask our speakers, I just want to end up with saying we all need to work together to revive our economy. We need to challenge ourselves, like you all said, but we also need to challenge others to join us in this mission. No matter how small or big our communities are, we are all responsible for economic prosperity, and small businesses are the backbone of our economy, of our country. So if no one's doing the job to help them, we need to step up. Like my shirt says, let's put the money where our home is and let's help support our local businesses. So any questions so far in the audience?
I have a quick question while the audience puts their questions on the chat box. I have a quick question, very actionable for Tia, Daniel, Alexander, and Jesse. If there was one thing someone, anyone, me could do to help you on one thing to advance your cause, your work at your community, your work at your small business, your work, Danielle, with the software company you work to do more outreach, to do better, to reach more local businesses. If there was one thing we could do, anyone could do, what would be that thing? Maybe that's a connection, maybe that's access to capital, maybe that's help me put a webinar together. We don't know what that is, but I want to ask if there is something anyone could do to help you, or that you might need. What is that thing that we could help you with, that anyone could help you with, if anything comes to mind?
I can definitely attest to. No, go for it.
You sure? I would just say, let me say really quickly, I would absolutely say marketing. Because I know that, if it's marketed, if what I do is marketed consistently, in front of the right venues, then I feel like it would be a major difference. So I would absolutely say marketing and manufacturing. I don't know if you all, I'm just saying, those are things that I absolutely need assistance with.
I'd say for me, and speaking for a lot of smaller city councils out there and smaller governments, I am my own staff. So communications would be the biggest thing. So if you see something on Facebook, it's coming from me. And like myself and so many others, we sit on 5 different boards outside the city council. So our attention may be focused somewhere else, or we just may not know half the time what's going on with our small businesses. So someone just say, hey, this is what's going on. I think definitely would ease up a lot of the problems, because like I said, with every other board that I sit on, just life itself, it gets a little difficult reaching out to people and letting them know what's out there.
I'll just jump in real quick because I actually need to jump to a meeting. I'm helping out with the Black Entrepreneurship Program, free advising to Black entrepreneurs through the NorCal SBDC. If you know someone needs help, I put the link in the chat. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jesse.
And I would say networking is very important for my business. I work with hundreds of small businesses across the nation, specifically helping them with marketing and advertising. That's what I do. My advice is free. I a lot of times consult with a lot of local businesses just on the concept of marketing and what to do and how to do it. We of course would love to help them with it, but for me, it's always a challenge getting introduced to the right decision maker locally. So that's something that I would, to be able to help more local businesses, I need to be able to, get an introduction sometimes and actually talk to them and see if there's a way I can consult with them and help them flourish in their business.
Daniel, is that interest to decision makers, or to small businesses that need your support so they know that you're around, or to both?
Yeah, both. We specialize in advertising and marketing as an advertising agency. So that, that's what we can do is, for example, companies like TIA's, if they need help with marketing, we can consult with them. But, that's really, for me, is I like to do needs analysis, find out what you're doing, where I can help. So it's free consulting. And then if we can, so if I get introduced to a local company that needs a resource like we offer, then that's great for my business.
And if I may, in my case, it's not an easy way to answer this question, because there's a lot of things to do, innovation, create synergies, but there's a trendy phrase in public procurement lately, is value for money. So how can we incentivize and strengthen value for money? Not everything should be or revolve around the lowest price. We must change the way we think. We need to add more quality, more value. I think is more important than money sometimes in the long run, especially because the savings for the purchase entities, local governments, and everyone involved in this kind of processes, public processes, is going to see the result. For this, I think it's necessary to come with the commitment with the companies, unions, governments, in order to seek fair policies. A healthy competition, I think, is really important to secure the transparency, and I think at the end everything is going to be guaranteed.
I think it's, and now you, Paola, what do you need? What resources, what tools do you need?
You always put me on the spot. I think that we need to find champions that want help. as a GovTech company, we have so many amazing tools for vendors, for small businesses, diverse, minority, women-owned, veteran-owned. I don't even think these businesses are the minority, but hey, I'm gonna label them as we label them. But we have so many powerful tools that, and being a startup, if we are we don't focus on convincing people that don't think they have a problem. We see the problem and we want to talk and get faster to the champions that know they have a problem and that want help. We want to invest all of our time helping the people that know they need help. So if you know a champion that, like Alexander, is saying, I need support communicating what I'm doing. Like, I don't have time to do the work and communicate it at the same time because I'm sitting in all these 5 boards. So we need to find those champions that know they can do better, that are leading their economic development efforts in their cities or counties. These are small businesses that they know they could be selling to their local governments, and they know that they want to step up and they don't know how, but they know they need that help. And we want those interests too, as Daniel Tollefson said. We want those interests so we can put our amazing tools to use, because else, what are we doing? We're doing all the work and the work is stopped, siloed, right? It's siloed, it's not shared, it's not maximized. All this effort is not seeing the light, but the work is already there. So I think we all share that when we say that we have a lot of small business and a lot of opportunities to serve our communities. We have a lot of free advice that we want to give to people. We have a lot of tools. I'm doing a lot of work and I want to communicate it more. I think we're all saying the same thing. Can we get to the right people that is waiting for our messages? So I would say that.
Wonderful. We took notes of everything. I cannot wait to put this packet together and share it with everyone. It's going to be so powerful for our audience, your communities, the people that work with you. I can't thank you enough for your time. There are so much more questions. I'm going to try to email them to y'all and try to get your responses there so we can include as much information as possible. But, at the beginning of the webinar, we asked who is responsible for the economic recovery in our cities. And there were answers all over the board in our chat. I think if I were to ask the question again, we would get everyone. Because I think after hearing everyone's perspective, everyone's angle, we now know that we all have the responsibility to make sure that we're all back on track. And we all need to support each other. And that's why I'm happy we took notes. So we're going to take action and we're going to support you in the ways that you asked, and hopefully continue this wonderful network of people championing local. So thank you all the speakers for your time. This has been so wonderful. And thank you to all the attendees. I hope you got a lot of takeaways from this.